Okay. Hello, everybody. Privileged today to be speaking with Ron Koenigsberg, who is the founder and president of American Investment Properties, commercial real estate firm here on Long Island. Thank you, Ron. Good seeing you.
Good to be here, Ray.
You know, Ron, we're talking all things commercial real estate today.
Right.
And I wanted to ask you from the jump, why did you choose commercial real estate as opposed to residential?
That was really something that I chose investments. When I was a young boy, my brother and I watched my dad go into the investment industry. He went into stocks. He was a financial planner, mutual funds, bonds, and commercial real estate as an investment vehicle. So my brother and I started to learn a lot about investments. In particular, we were both drawn to commercial real estate. He went to law school, and today he's a commercial real estate attorney. And I went to graduate school at NYU, and today I'm a commercial real estate broker. It was always about the investment part of that's what got us in.
And it's interesting because, as you know, I interact with commercial brokers and residential brokers, and it seems like they speak different languages, even though they're all under the umbrella of real estate brokers. So it really is two different systems, right? Residential and commercial are two languages or two systems?
I've always thought they should be separated. I've always believed that there should be separate licenses. One is a lot more sophisticated than the other. Obviously there's a lot more houses, and that market is huge, and that's a great marketplace that we don't transact in. I've never sold a home, never sold an apartment. I've sold multifamily buildings, shopping centers, and office buildings, but nothing to do with residential real estate. I always believe it should be a separate license.
Yeah, and picking up on that, do you think that it's two different skill sets that, what makes a good commercial broker or agent if somebody's interested in becoming one? Talking about the differences between commercial and residential, how is a commercial agent, what's the key to success?
Sure. I think there are probably many skill sets that overlap between commercial and residential firms. Fundamentally, it still is at some point interpersonal skills. My book, Power Broker, we go over the 9 skills that I believe that you need to be successful. It's a different skill set. As a commercial real estate broker, being on the phone is a tremendous part of success. So I say to people, I would like you to speak to 50 or more, ideally 100, be that as it may, at least 50 property owners every single day. And you say to me, well, what are you going to say to 50 different people? What's next? I see that you own several properties here on Long Island. That's the marketplace we specialize in. We specialize in shopping centers and office buildings and industrial properties and apartment buildings. What's next for you, sir?
Right.
They're happy to talk about what's next, furnish them listings, or give them broker price opinions, complimentary property evaluations for either now or sometime down the road, so they fully understand the valuation of a building. Right. It really helps. The skills, just taking it prospecting has to be a habit. Has to happen every single day.
Right. And Ron, you've been doing this for many years. If you had to do it all over again and you had to make your first $1 million in commercial real estate again, how would you do it?
I feel like Okay, sure. I opened the firm in 2001, and within a few years, I did exactly that. Made the first $1 million. So let me tell you how to do it exactly.
Yep.
If I take a salesperson, you give me 24 to 36 months, 2 or 3 years, and you follow this exact structure, let's do this. Okay, number one, I believe that if I could get somebody and get them comfortable in a commercial real estate firm, because not only do I want, the 40 hours a week, I want your spare time as well. I want you to take an interest. I want you to feel supported by the firm, comfortable and happy to be there. I want it to be a place that you look forward to going to. The next thing, 3 books. I want everyone to read 3 very specific books. There's a book called Value Added by Brad Umansky. Brad Umansky is a very successful commercial real estate broker. He did go to the University of Pennsylvania, And he's a really bright guy, and he wrote a book. I think many of us real estate brokers say, I should write a manual step-by-step on how to be successful. You can't do it. Brad already did it. It's called Value Added. It's a perfect book. Number 2, once you know what to do, you have to build those habits. Rod Santamassimo, the absolute best commercial real estate coach in commercial real estate, wrote a book called Knowing Isn't Doing. I mean, it's right there in the title. Just because you know what to do from Brad Umansky's book, it's not doing it. Let me show you how to do it and then the benefits. If there was a third book, I would really recommend Interpersonal Skills. Now, I like my book, Power Broker, because you know what to do, you know how to do it, but let's talk about the interpersonal skills to make sure it gets completed. You could read T. Harv Eckert's book, The Millionaire Mind. He covers 8 specific skills that you need for interpersonal skills. I cover 9. So now you're up and running and making money in commercial real estate. You're making the calls, you found a brokerage firm you like, and you're speaking to 50 people a day. Give it a little bit of time, 6 months, 9 months, you will find buyers and you will find sellers. In our firm, you know how much we rely on premium listing services online. 87.5% of all transactions start online. So we're there on Crexy, we're there on LoopNet, we're there with our website. Next, the commissions are going to come in. I promise you, and they're going to be huge. But you have to save a portion of that. In 2009, I had a salesperson work for me, and his commission was $38,000. I gave him the check. He sold the building in Lindenhurst. I didn't see him. 6 weeks passed, and I said, where you been? He said, I got engaged. I went on vacation. I leased a BMW, and I got a new apartment. And I said, how did you do all that and get an engagement ring, with $38,000? He didn't have any money. Listen, I want everyone to live well and enjoy yourself. But if you want to save $1 million, you got to save some of it. And very specifically, not my advice, take the money and put it into an ETF, exchange traded fund. This is the advice that I took from Warren Buffett. This is the advice that LeBron James took from Warren Buffett. Put it into one asset, VOO. It's the S&P 500. It's basically without fees. You put your money in there, it'll grow 9.6% per year. Let me show you how to make the calls, speak to the people, stay on the phone, take careful notes. If they're talking, you're typing. And I promise you, within 2-3 years, with making the huge commissions, investing it, and having that grow and compound, you'll have $1 million.
And a lot of people are obviously attracted to commercial real estate, Ron, but I think what could be helpful for them is tell us what your typical day looks like in commercial real estate.
Sure. And I think that's very important. Because, most days I go to the gym. Leave that out. I come into the office. I make prospecting calls. Now, someone's going to say, is it a cold call? Well, I'm in touch with about 3,000 owners. I built myself a CRM, customer relationship manager, and I speak to them periodically. I make my calls. Now, I make 20 to 25 contacts per day. I'm asking someone new in the business to do double or quadruple that. It's up to you. How quickly you want to be successful is entirely on your own. I've been doing this for 27 or more years. So, bottom line is, I make my calls between 9 and let's just say 11:30. I'm the owner of the firm, so I check in on all my salespeople to move their deals along. Next steps, I look at every single one of my deals, and I try to figure out next steps, but I do that in the afternoon. I don't personally have as much energy in the afternoon as I do in the morning. I know me. In the morning, I have as much energy. I do it. Those prospecting calls pave the way for income now and forever as long as you keep doing them.
I want to zero in on something you said earlier about the differences between residential and commercial. And it seems to me that commercial real estate lends itself to more deal making. more complex deals, owner financing, different mortgage types, and so forth. How much of a thrill do you get out of making a deal? Is that still a thrill for you?
Absolutely. 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 Commercial real estate is a very complex industry. And people that want to break into it, it takes a little bit of time. You really deal with very large assets, very large dollar amounts, and a very complex set of fundamentals, financing, zoning, laws. I mean, the list goes on and on. Now, you're dealing with an individual, the asset is at least $1 million. And in our particular case, let's just say it's somewhere between $1 and $30 million. It's a meaningful dollar amount. Right. And when they hire you as their commercial real estate professional, yes, you and your team really better understand the ins and outs to help them incrementally get more on the sale. Think about that. 2 real estate brokers go in. One is able to incrementally get, on average, 11% more. Right? On a $5 million deal, that represents, more than $500,000 in additional capital gains. Yeah. You factor out the mortgage, which, in many cases is half. Large portion of the profit is dealing with the commercial real estate broker like American Investment Properties that really works hard, exposes the property to the market, and understands that 70% of transactions are done through 1031 exchange buyers. Look for the guy with the 1031.
And also talking about some of the nuances in commercial real estate, it seems to me that in residential, we know some of the turmoil or some of the changes that are going on in residential brokerage these days. It's on national news. But getting back to commercial real estate, you're interacting with sellers primarily, but also directly with buyers,
That's
right?
Correct,
So you have to be able to bridge that gap. And talking about making a deal, you have to be able to connect buyers and sellers. And sometimes it's more than just a price, right? It's negotiating terms. And when you put a deal together, the satisfaction you get from it, how do you celebrate the win after you get a deal?
That's interesting. How do you celebrate the win? And when do you celebrate the win?
When do you celebrate the win?
Which is the happiest part when you speak to an individual and they say, hey, you know what? I'm going to award you the exclusive listing to my office building because I know one thing. You're going to outproduce the competition. And I promise, anyone who hires me or American Investment Properties, we will do absolutely everything, stay up nights and weekends to try to figure out how to bring in incrementally more money. Of course, when we get into contract, it's very exciting. A lot of people celebrate when it goes into contract. A lot of people celebrate when it closes. So when do I celebrate it all. Yeah. It's such a fun business. For me, I love selling, and it's very enjoyable.
And this is a little bit of a leading question, Ron, but I guess what I'd say is after you make a deal, do you find that it's contagious? Do you find that you make a deal and, of course, not your first deal at this point in your career, but you make a deal and you find you just want to make another one behind it and you just want to keep going?
I agree with you.
Right?
Yeah, no, that is a leading question because absolutely. Definitely.
So you're constantly working towards the next deal, and you may have had a good closing and a good commission check come in, but you want to keep on looking forward and just keep moving.
Right. I recently started taking Focus Factor from my memory so I could have a better memory. And I saw it at Costco and I heard it was great. And truthfully, it really is great. And I have nothing to do with Focus Factor. So what I did was at night, I take a couple of vitamins. So I put it next to the other vitamins. Within a week or two, it was a habit. I started to always take the Focus Factor. So for me, when I come in, those cold calls, warm calls, prospecting calls, speaking to 20 to 25 owners every single day, Monday through Friday, 12 months of the year, that is a habit. I can't think about it. I don't have to think about it. It's a habit.
And of course, a conversation about your successes would be incomplete if we didn't talk about some of the failures that you experienced along the way.
Of course.
Is there one that maybe stands out?
Well, there's all sorts of deal failures.
Right.
I've been fired more than anybody I ever met. Billy Martin, I think, was fired 7 or 8 times. I think I've probably been fired 10 times that,
Right.
70 or 80 times. Most of the time, it's big money. The property owner fires me or us because we're not able to get them what they perceive their valuation or the market is or what they want for their property. But typically, we're usually able to keep working on it, keep staying with the project and seeing it through. So I've been fired a lot. Being resilient is a huge part of not only this industry, but any industry. We're all dealing with stuff.
And, talking about failure and success and the back and forth, I mean, have you had experiences where somebody may have said to you, look, I'm going to move on and move on to another broker, and then you find them coming back to you for a different deal or maybe for the same deal? Do people realize maybe, there's different things and different considerations? It's not as easy as just...
Like you said, I love winning. I love winning deals. And in particular, I love winning big deals.
Right.
Okay. Because, there's this, everyone, what's the biggest deal you ever sold? What's the largest property you ever sold? I became really good friends with this owner in Franklin Square. And he owned what he thought was in and around a $7 million building. He had a partner, so I met with him and his partner, and he was just psyched. He wanted to award me the business. But his partner said, no, how can you and your small firm compete against Newmark? Right. They're international. Right. We're going to get a buyer. All right, be that as it may, he signed a 6-month exclusive, and not one person came to see the property. I don't know what they did, and I'm not here to bash the national firms or anyone in particular. Wasn't a fit. I got the opportunity. The partner that went with me, I said to him, I'm gearing up. The first 30 days, we showed the property 30 times. We were able to bring him $7,150,000. We closed that deal. And quite frankly, he is a client, a referral, and a buddy of mine for life.
And talking about the cyclical nature of business, and we all know that there are good years and bad years. But how do you continue to drive the firm's growth, and how do you avoid plateaus?
I've heard that word, plateaus. It's not something that resonates with me. I'm pretty competitive. It's like saying to Michael Jordan, what do you do about plateaus? You won a championship. He's going to say to you, I want more. I don't want anybody else winning the championship. I think I'm pretty competitive. I know that we set bigger and bigger goals because I'm, one of the 9 traits that is outlined is goal setting. It's hardwired into me. I think perhaps it's the goals. That's the reason why I don't plateau or think about plateaus.
And I should mention your book, Power Broker, which just came out, contains a lot of what we're talking about. And as you had said in the past, you wrote this for your children primarily and other people interested in commercial real estate?
I did. I wanted to pass along to Drew and to Chase what I believe are the most important 9 skills on the planet, the interpersonal skills. And by way, if we could pass that along to your kids and everybody else's kids, as sort of like my dad did for me. But Power Broker is to better understand the challenges of communication behind screens with texting and social media, and the 9 skills that have been around for as long as human beings have been interacting. And, I deal with all 9 skills. Relationship building, problem solving, which is basically critical thinking, those debate skills when you're standing there and you need to figure out those debate skills. I didn't take a debate class. I wish I did. Public speaking. It's very challenging, all the fears that are involved in that, but the benefits of someone that can successfully public speak, they become a leader. Communication, adaptability, being a chameleon, being able to adapt in different circumstances. We spoke a little bit about negotiation in commercial real estate, but you really have to understand the 4 C's. In the book, everyone says, I'm a great negotiator, but understanding the 4 C's of negotiation, which goes into a little book, you really understand how you can hone your skills. And then, of course, teamwork, resilience, And my number one, I think the number one thing that the book is about, active listening.
Yeah. You talk about the book, when talking about the book and about being in the office and teaching agents and so forth, your system and how they can succeed. But what are some of the skills that you look for when you're interviewing a sales associate? Some of the things that they may not know, but what's important to you that they have before they come into the firm?
Not only do I want them to seem to have the social skills, with me and the genuine interest. Anyone could say that I want a great track record. Obviously anybody with a track record, any firm would want. But what are the skills for somebody new, or what are the skills that I want in a salesperson? I want them to have a genuine curiosity about real estate. They come in and care a little bit about that, or a lot of bit about that. And then from there, their interpersonal skills. Whether I like them, because if I like them, probably everybody in the boardroom in our office is going to like them. And if everybody in the office likes them, then everybody owning real estate is probably going to like them. And we just need to fill in some skill sets and discuss specifically how it relates to commercial real estate. And they're going to get along, be liked, and transact.
And we were talking earlier that the money in commercial real estate is often very good. Commission checks are big, and the deal transaction volume is your transaction dollar amount is a big number. How important is reinvesting money into yourself and into the business? How much has that led to your success?
You picked the hardest one. You picked the absolute hardest. Making money is a challenge. You have to learn, make the calls, deal has to close, you have to pay taxes, check has to clear. 75 different things line up. Actually 56. We have 56 different points that we talk about in the deal process. What specifically you're talking about is investing back into yourself, investing into coaching, investing into the firm. I have to write a long lease for the space. I have to think 5 years out with increases, CoStar keys. I have to think about Crexy. I have to think about a salaried staff to make sure that the salespeople are able to get through their transactions. The scariest thing to do is to make money like a boxer and then say, hey, I'm going to reinvest it. I'm going to put it out there in hopes of getting it back. If anybody tells you that's not scary, risk equals reward, but it's scary. Writing that lease, signing those CoStar keys every month, putting out, tens of thousands of dollars. If you don't think that's scary, but no risk, no reward. If you want to be very well rewarded, you got to take risks. You got to put your real money out there so you could lose it. Do the best you can to make sure you don't lose it.
Yeah, and we're still emerging from the post-COVID era. Things are being rearranged and stuff, and we see some of the struggles in commercial real estate, particularly with office space and so forth. But what do you see the future as commercial brokerage? You talk about 27 years, and we've talked about some of the lessons you've learned. But where do you see the future of commercial brokerage?
I believe the future of commercial real estate brokerage is going to be exactly as it is, or very, very similar to what it's been during my entire, close to 30-year career. I believe that it's going to be interpersonal skills. I believe that it's going to be assets, large assets. I believe that it's going to be a knowledge center. But the one thing that I really need to tell you is that for some reason, since I've been in this business, I'm 59 years old, the average age for a commercial real estate broker has always been my age plus 3 years. So right now, in 2024, the average age of a commercial real estate broker is 62. Now, let me ask you a question. Would you rather have 28-year-old Patrick Mahomes or, Terry Bradshaw? You see my point? The talent is aging out. The opportunity is so amazing.
So you'd say that the opportunity is maybe better than it's been before. The real estate itself, the challenges, because some people are very afraid and about some of the risks in commercial real estate. You think the industry will meet the challenge and the opportunity could be greater for younger people because the talent is sort of aging out a little bit?
Aging out a lot. Aging out a lot. This business, the major challenges are, number one, get licensed. Number two, get with a firm you feel comfortable with. But the major challenge are as follows. Number one, the first year, you could make a lot of money, and some have. Most don't. Year two, you will have learned 80% of everything you need to know for your entire career in the first year. After that, you got to build habits to make those calls and continue to do, in football, blocking and tackling of the fundamentals. In commercial real estate, calling, showing properties, meeting with people, those are the blocking and tackling of the fundamentals of this business. The big problem is year one.
Yeah, and picking up on that, does that mean that because you have these ongoing regular conversations with your buyers and sellers who know you after all these years, that you have a certain baseline level of activity every year, even when in difficult economic times, right? People are still going to transact, particularly in the commercial side. They're still going to want to buy and sell, even in a tough interest rate environment.
Well, first, let's start with the fundamentals. The fundamentals are basically this. Of all the commercial buildings in a market, now we specialize in Nassau, Suffolk, Queens, and some degree Brooklyn now. 2.5% of all the properties in that marketplace will transact on average every year. Now, the question is, what percentage of that marketplace will American Investment Properties capture? The same percentage are going, well, it's happened for the last 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. So the same percentage are going to list, 5%, 2.5% are going to transact. What percentage of the pie are we going to capture? Yes, it's competitive. Right. Absolutely. It's kind of like kids around a pizza table. They all want.
American Investment Properties being a small firm, do you feel like that gives you a little bit of nimbleness where you can kind of adjust to market conditions? I imagine that some of the bigger firms have a more difficult time in tough environments. They're supporting 50 offices or 20 offices or whatever it is. Does being a smaller firm make you more nimble?
I believe it does. I believe it's a major asset. I believe that we are able to meet our customers' needs in changing environments because the owner of the firm is a commercial real estate broker working every single day, speaking to 20 to 25 different owners and fundamentally understanding what needs to be done, what needs to be changed. So yes, I think there's a huge advantage working with a local boutique firm, particularly where the owner is available of that firm at any point. The larger firms, I can say that they work on larger deals, and truthfully, I honestly believe that more and more we're starting to work on many of those deals, particularly when the owner of the property himself, not his shareholders, not publicly traded, when he himself owns the property and he wants somebody in particular, like American Investment Properties, or one like Ron Koenigsberg, or one of the other key salespeople there. They want that one person. It's their asset. They're invested. The money goes into their pocket.
Yep. And I imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure many sellers love the idea that they could, even if they're working with an agent, that they can get you on the phone,
of
or
course.
you could become involved in a deal if need be, or if there's a situation that warrants your involvement. You're only a phone call away, I imagine, for these.
Always. No matter who anyone is working with on my team, anytime there's a problem, and there are often problems, I sit down in the afternoons. As I said, I make my prospecting calls, and I meet with people. I look at our alternatives, and I figure out, what is the best path forward. But we really do problem solving. It's one of the 9 skills in the book. And we really, delineate what's the best path forward. But you really have to be there.
Yeah. As much as we talk about the science of brokerage, let's also talk about the experience of brokerage. After all these years, I imagine your intuition is pretty sharp, right? You can kind of pencil out or see how a deal is going to pencil out. as you begin to know the
Yes, you
players
can.
involved and
Yes,
so
you
forth?
can.
You can kind of predict how it's going to go?
Yes, yeah, you can see. Well, listen, if you've brokered hundreds and hundreds, and hundreds of deals, and you've seen, thousands and thousands of deals, it's like going into a movie and watching, Rocky all over again. You know what? You can play it out in your mind how it's going to play through, and it's very predictable. People are very predictable.
And understanding the process, so many of these deals involve 1031 exchanges, right? And
70%,
sometimes,
yes.
yeah, and some of these exchanges are deals where you might be putting together, but you're not involved in their 1031, particularly if they're buying something out of state, you're a seller or so forth, but you have to be aware of it, right?
Of course.
You've got a lot of factors involved in the commercial
It's a complicated industry.
Yeah.
It really is. And that's the reason why in the first year, a salesperson is a lot of learning.
Right.
No guarantee. So how much am I going to make in my first year? Right. I want someone who's willing to say this is a career. Being a salesperson gets compensated at or above doctors, lawyers. Pick your profession. If you're a professional salesperson, we work with the highest level of professionalism at American Investment Properties. I wouldn't have it any other way. The firm is based on our complimentary property evaluations and our offering memorandums, and their level of sophistication is completely the highest levels.
Ron, I know you to be a big sports fan, so let me give you this analogy. And this is directed to maybe residential brokers who are interested in commercial. Could you take a starting pitcher and make him into a reliever, or the other way around? Could you take a residential broker, and if they follow your system, do you think you can make them into a successful commercial broker?
I think that often happens. Actually, I think in baseball what typically happens is that most pitchers start out as starting pitchers, and if they don't have the success that the manager or the team needs, they become a relief pitcher. I think that's by default. So I think that, quite honestly, there is a lot of adaptability. And, with somebody in residential real estate who wanted to be in commercial real estate, could we transition them in? Sure. We share the same license, and that's it. And I've worked with residential brokers who have had great success. So I would welcome that. And I think that, having the license already and an understanding of sales, we could really hone in those skills and make them maybe more successful faster.
I asked that question because I read a statistic recently where, because of COVID and so forth, there's been a lot of interest in real estate, and a lot of people took that time when they were home to go ahead and get their real estate licenses, primarily focusing on residential, and maybe they haven't had the success because the license doesn't guarantee success. So maybe they had some frustration on the residential side, but you're here to tell them that they can still transition to commercial and quite possibly be very successful in it.
Absolutely. On Long Island, last I checked, I think there were 63,000 licensed individuals. I would encourage anyone, if they wanted to learn more about commercial real estate, to just do that. Come over to American Investment Properties, have us spend some time with you and see if it's a fit.
And I also wanted to ask you, Ron, when you talk about meeting your sellers and interacting with your sellers, you're on the phone a lot.
A lot.
And when you meet them in person, do you feel like there's a connection that you're able to, because you had this relationship for all these years, right? How does it feel like when you meet a seller or buyer in person?
It's great. It's great. And that's part of the fun for me. When we spoke before, you said, what does your day look like? And I say I cold call. And people, are probably thinking, oh, that's awful. It's not. It's right. Amazing. Right. Now, when I pick up the phone, I've been speaking to people, some new, but some for 20 years.
Right.
And I've got notes for the whole time. Tell me more about your daughter. What's going on? And I'm genuinely interested. I'm a dad. You're a dad.
Right.
Being a father's, you know what I mean? It's a fun job, but let's be specific. Get into it and care. So I want to know what's going on in their lives. They want to know what's going on in my life. We get to share a little bit about our lives. Yes, many I meet often, some not at all.
Right.
Some just over the phone. Maybe I'll see them at a, exclusive listing signing, or when I first toured the building with them, right. Or at a closing. And
I because you've had so much experience, I love tapping into your brain and getting how you feel when things happen. How do you feel when the deal happens? How do you feel when you meet somebody? My question is this now. How do you feel when you drive by a building that you've maybe been involved on the sale and you see that maybe a new owner has put something brand new up or has renovated a shopping center? What is that feeling like?
It feels amazing.
Yeah.
Feels amazing. You want to pick up the phone. It's sort of like you understand the current owner. You brought that to him. He never forgets that. You're the broker who sold me the deal. I didn't, without you, I wouldn't have had that gorgeous building. I'm thinking about one in particular that I sold in 2010. It was a $9.6 million asset. Yeah, it feels great. I drive by it all the time, and I think about the transaction, the challenges that were in place, what we had to, many of the actions we had to overcome, and how happy the owner is, and he's not going to part with it. Because I trust me, I ask, 2-3 times a year, you ready to sell the asset now?
To the average or casual viewer, I want to ask you this question, Ron. Real estate's more than cap rates, right? It's not just simple division or mathematical.
I wish it was that simple.
It's more than that.
Of course.
Yeah. Multiple facets to deals and numbers and so forth.
The very basics of a cap rate is the income, divided by the price of the asset. That's the capitalization rate. Real simple. So now let's talk about the income. Well, can we get the income to go up higher? And how easy is that going to be? Or is the income going to drop when the tenant leaves? So the income or the cap rate, that's simple stuff. Yeah. That anybody with a calculator can figure out how to get the income higher and more predictable and safer, putting in a better tenant at a higher rate with a longer lease. Or is the existing tenant going to walk out and you're going to be stuck with, rents that are half? Yeah. So you got to know the market. You really have to specialize. I think the key is specialty.
In 2024, we're so used to everything being on the laptop, everything being on the computer. I mean, you want a stock price, you get it right away, instant. I remember being a kid and having to, I think it was a 15-minute delay. There's no such thing. And calculating what 25 and 7/8 are. Now it's 20, they do the math. It's very easy. But in commercial real estate, there's still a lot of deals that get done offline, right? Off-market deals, if you will.
Less and less. Okay. I will say that less and less. Less and less over the years.
Do you find that a lot of your sellers, the ones who do want to do off-market deals, come to you because you're a trusted advisor for all these years? They've dealt with you in the past?
There's a level of trust, like you said. After you speak to somebody for 20 years, they understand, my life, and I understand their lives, and there's a level of trust. And perhaps I've sold them a building, or I sold a building for them. Right. Of course, we've been through the process, together. We've built a level of trust and confidence, and you know who you're dealing with.
Right.
It's nice to have that. And listen, and I also lend that to all the salespeople in my firm. I go on the meetings with them. I love this stuff. To me, I told you, right. I do it in my spare time.
Right. And, talking about direct investment back into the company and so forth, do you find that it's got to be particularly rewarding when, someone calls you up and says, we haven't dealt with each other, but I've been getting your emails all these years, and I see that you're doing a lot of deals, and I want to talk to you about something. Clearly, that's it's got to be a validation of all the money and effort you've spent to reach out to people.
It happens. Yeah. It happens. You get referrals. We build the email lists, and we do get people that have said, I've been watching you, I've been following you, I've been reading your emails. And while I make those calls every morning, one of the things I do is I make sure that they're receiving the emails. Is this your best email address? Have you seen some of the local transactions right now as we're in Garden City? I might say to them, we have some properties in Garden City. Are you looking in Mineola? Are you looking in the area? So that starts a conversation, and then I like to go through their properties with them.
I think we're missing a step, though, Ron. I think one of the things I've observed is that you take copious notes while you're on the phone So, talking about active listening, if someone says, listen, I got your email and you send me some property in Garden City, but I'm really looking at Suffolk. I mean, you've got to have that note in there so that you don't go ahead and keep sending them deals and sort of, it's very easy to put somebody on the block list or junk mail. So listening during the phone call, how important has that been to your success?
I think I've learned everything the hard way. I think I've made every single mistake absolutely humanly possible. So I know when I started in the career, I was making the calls. I was learning as fast as I could and doing the very best that I can. But I can promise you, my first few years, I didn't take notes. And the difference between actively listening, if they're talking, you're typing, and not doing that is night and day.
Right.
Because as they tell you about themselves, as they tell you about their property requirements and their wants, that's how you build a relationship. Everybody just wants to feel heard.
Right.
And when you do hear them and you're able to repeat back, I know last time we spoke, you were looking in Suffolk. Are you still looking in Suffolk because the taxes are lower? Wow, Ron, I really appreciate that I am.
Right.
And the taxes really are lower, and it's a place that I'm much more comfortable transacting.
It seems to me that the note-taking allows you to have an ongoing conversation with your clients, right? So if you speak with somebody today, if you take the right notes, even if you don't speak to them for a couple of months,
Of course.
that you can just roll off where you left off, right?
Of course.
And that's what the note-taking
Of
does
course.
for you.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
you're typing at the same time? You're putting it right into your CRM?
I am. Sometimes I write or type, but most of the time I'm typing right into my CRM. They're notes for myself. No one sees them. Trust me, no one's going anything. But they're just notes to myself, looking in Suffolk, considering bigger deals, thinking about multifamily. I put it in there, and it goes into my brain, whatever is repetitive, and it'll occur to me as I loop around and see them again in a few months and speak to them again in my CRM. Or I'll remember, wow, this deal is perfect for that buyer. I know he's out in Suffolk County looking for multi.
Yeah. And I should have asked you the question a little bit differently earlier, because I said to you, what does it feel like when you pass by a building that you were involved in the transaction and now you see it's evolved into an even better building or a better use or whatever it might be? When you drive by with your kids, do you tell them, listen, this was a deal that I was part of?
They're so sick of hearing it.
How do they feel? Is that
Yeah, they're so sick of hearing it. However, though, at age 59, and I have two sons, Drew and Chase. Drew is 11, Chase is 10. I recently said to Chase, we were going out to play basketball. I said, we better practice. I know you want to be a professional basketball player. And he said, no, Daddy, I want to be a real estate broker.
Ooh. How'd that feel?
Never have I ever felt so good.
Wow.
That was as good as it gets from me. Chase is thinking about coming to work. At American, he said, could I come work at your firm, when I'm old enough?
Yeah.
So that has completely changed the perspective of my entire existence in life. I want to build the firm now. I want to hand them off something that is hugely successful. I'm not going anywhere, but the fact that it can live on after me with Chase, maybe Drew. I don't know. Maybe he'll change his mind, or maybe Chase will change his mind. Maybe they'll both come. Maybe neither one will come. But for now, Chase says he has an interest, and I'd love for him to come on board. And man, that would be the most exciting thing in the world for me.
And Ron, I wanted to ask you this. It's so many moving parts in commercial real estate. It's not that you just trusted among buyers and sellers. You also have worked with probably countless attorneys, banks, insurance companies, all the different maybe inspectors, environmental companies, all the people involved in a commercial transaction. Do you find that having had the experience that you have a good network of people that you've worked with on all these deals for all these years?
It's critical. It's critical. Real estate, like politics, is local. Very, very local. Now, we spoke about assets being very large in size. We spoke about assets being very complicated. And we spoke about assets, real problems. That one building I sold for $9.6 million that I drive by all the time, there was a problem with the certificate of occupancy.
Right.
The deal was dead. So we went to the building department. We knew some people. We spoke to them. We sat with them, and we worked through it. Right. It took months, but we got through it. Politics and real estate are local. Real estate's local.
You know, I like to joke around with you because I know one of your favorite expressions is, I've got a guy, right? I got a guy. Hey, Ron, do you know somebody who does environmental abatement or something? Yeah, I know somebody who does that. So being in the business for all these years means that not just are you able to match buyers and sellers, you're able to handle all aspects of the transaction.
Very important. Very important. You picked an environmental. We both know an environmental guy who's probably the best environmental guy I know of my entire career. And I just got a text from him the other day congratulating me on being named Long Island Herald Commercial Broker of the Year.
Right.
Cool. I trust me. I saw that text come in. You know, you could press on it and you could thumbs up and like it. Yeah. I almost gave it the heart.
And that is actually the perfect segue to the question I wanted to ask you, which is, being a smaller firm, you've been awarded a lot of awards, many awards. How does that feel, and what do you think the secret to that is?
The first award I ever really got that blew me away was in 2017. I remember sitting at my computer, and I got an email, nothing, and it said, congratulations, you've been awarded the 2017 Commercial Broker of the Year from Long Island Business News. I didn't know what to do with myself. Right. I told everybody in the office. I almost didn't believe it. Small firms don't win, big awards. We've won a lot of awards. It feels fun. It's cool. It's definitely rewarding. It's nice. I was just awarded, Long Island Herald Commercial Broker of the Year.
Yeah, and talk about the feeling of reward, being rewarded. Is it rewarding for you to teach this now to a new generation of brokers?
I love it.
And do you think that you're at the right point in your life where teaching has now become as rewarding maybe as putting a deal together for yourself? Or would the younger Ron Koenigsberg have wrote this book? Or is this book written based at the right time of your life with all the experience you've had in the industry?
It's interesting, as you ask the question, you start to digest it. You start to look at yourself under a different perspective. I mean, you really made me think. Listen, the book that I wrote about interpersonal skills is something that I believe should have been written a long time ago. And while there are other books like How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling by Frank Bedka, that book was written in 1926. Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, was written in 1936. Yes, humans are still humans. However, a lot has changed since 1926 or 1936, including text messaging, and also a lot of the science, understanding human communication. 55% of all human communication is body language and facial expressions. 38% is the tone, how we say it. Only 7% is the actual message that's delivered. So when you text somebody, you lose 93% of the ability to communicate with somebody effectively. So when people tell me they've been texting with somebody and there's a misunderstanding, I don't understand how there can't be a misunderstanding.
Which actually lets me ask you this question, which seems to be very relevant and topical these days. Everybody's being asked about AI and whether or not, I was joking with the guy who cuts my hair, which you can see hasn't happened in a while, and he said, I feel great because my job will never be replaced by AI. So do commercial agents have to worry that one day they're going to wake up, and I'm not sure exactly how this would work, but will ChatGPT or AI replace commercial brokerage in any way?
I started to mess around with ChatGPT, I guess about a month or two ago. I didn't do the free version. I did the $20 a month version. Right. It is amazing for me. How I use it, I'm deeply dyslexic, so it helps me write and communicate efficiently as a writer. For me, it's an amazing tool that helps me better what I do.
Right.
As you know, most of what we do as commercial real estate brokers is on the phone. Just like your hair cutter and my hair cutter. ChatGPT is right now for me a very fun, useful tool to help supplement me in areas that I'm weak, but it's not going to take over brokerage. That's an interpersonal skill. Those are the 9 skills in the books. Those were around 1926 when those books are written, and they're around in 2024 when this book was written, Power Broker.
Is that your greatest hope for the book, your book, that'll be relevant 100 years from now? Is that how you wrote it?
No, I mean, that's great. That is great. That was a great question. I wrote the book for Drew and Chase. And I think that it's getting enough attention now where they're starting to, a couple of months out, get interested. What did Daddy do? Right. I can't think so big as 100 years from now. But yes, that'd be fun if that happened. I'll sign up for that any day of the year.
Well, I think the basic point being that some of these lessons are just fundamental, right? And
yes.
it accounts human nature, and as things change in the world and things emerge like ChatGPT and so forth, that's still not going to change the need for something like active listening or anything like that.
No, it's not going to change the need. But I think the reason why you need this book is you need someone to package together the 9 skills, explain how I learned those skills. Let's say active listening. First chapter, active listening. My brother says to me, "You're not listening."
Right.
And I said, "Of course I'm listening. You don't have to." Let me tell you something about listening. You don't have to listen. Happens automatically. The ears are attached. He says to me, "Exactly wrong." What? So I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "You gotta actively listen." What does that mean, actively listen? Explain it to me. Okay, put away distractions. When I'm talking to you, don't be, don't close all the windows. Close all the windows. We can pay attention to you? Yeah. Okay? And if you can repeat back the essence of what I'm saying to you, you will be actively listening. Now, once you start repeating back, someone says, whatever, I say to you, "I think I broke my toe." "You think you broke your toe?" "Yeah, I did. The thing is swollen. I don't know what I did to it." Really, that is the closest I've ever had to a mind meld between two people of sharing emotions. Active listening is truly one of the most amazing things I've ever come across.
One of the things I always hear when I speak to other agents and brokers and so forth is you always hear about the deal that got away, and you kind of feel bad because there are some people who you feel like they never got past it. There was a $20 million deal with a $2 million commission or something, and it was so close and it didn't happen. And it seems like they've lived the last 5 years bummed out about it and haven't really been able to move on. Do you feel as though part of your resilience comes from the fact that you've seen so much and you're able to shake off the bad news when it happens? And how does that factor into your resilience?
Well, as you were saying that, it was taking me through a deal that I didn't win. I lost somebody. To be honest with you, I'm still hurting from a deal that probably is, I think it was 2004, 2005. I didn't take the next right steps. I didn't think of the buyer. I think I'm competitive. I think that that's why we win awards, because I constantly want to win every deal. I don't want to win the award. I want to win all the deals. So yeah, when I read in Long Island Business News or elsewhere the success of a property sale and it wasn't us, it stings a little bit. And yeah. I identify as a commercial real estate broker. I identify as somebody that wants to win all the deals, or as many as we possibly can. And I want to perform really well. I want to do a good job. And I want to be referred. So when those things don't happen, I think it's like kind of an athlete that you look forward to the future wins.
Right.
It's fun. Winning is fun. And, being successful is fun.
Yeah, and as president of the company, I imagine that you have to talk to your own agents about that sometimes, right? Like, maybe this didn't work out, but you've got to keep going, and you feel as though you can share these stories in a way that connects with them, and they could say, "I see what you mean," and it's not all bad news, right? If one deal doesn't work out.
Learning resilience is very important, but the only way to learn any habit that we spoke about before is only the hard way.
Yeah.
During the Great Recession, it really was hard in commercial real estate. There was a period where I closed that $9.6 million deal, and and the recession already started in 2008, but I closed out in December or January of 2010. But I went 2 years, 24 months. I just lost my shirt. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars I put back into the business month after month, hoping it was going to turn around. And then I heard about coaching, and I dug in deeper. Instead of walking away from the business or walking away from the industry, I said, let's get better at this. And then I got better, the market got better, and within 5 years, I was Commercial Real Estate Broker of the Year. That felt cool.
You know, and again, we talk about, even casual observers looking at real estate, commercial real estate, know about cap rates, and they also know about interest rates. And so you hear a lot of chatter that real estate will do exactly what interest rates do. They follow interest rates. But are deals getting done in a higher interest rate environment?
Absolutely.
And if this is where the levels stay or someplace close to this, it doesn't mean the end of commercial real estate, does it? We'll still get deals done.
It's perspective. That's, again, I think it occurred to me just now, wow, how troubling what the words that you were saying, that interest rates are high, no one's going to transact, right, how difficult this is. Right. And then, I'm able to, have my brain correct and say, no, right. Listen.
Yes, right.
Listen. Right. 2.5% of all the deals are going to trade hands year in and year out. Now, there might be an aberration where 1 year you get closer to 2%, or an aberration where it's a great year and you get closer to 3%, but it's going to be very close. The interest rates are not going to significantly change the overall market. People still get divorced. People still sadly pass away. People still, transact because partnerships don't work. The fundamental reasons that people sell will still be in place regardless of the interest rates.
And I think in our remaining moments, what I want to leave people with is, if you could do it all over again, is there something that you would change about a single thing that stands out about your brokerage career? Your career in brokerage?
If I had to do all over again, I would like to in the beginning, all those mistakes I made, I don't want to make all those mistakes.
Right.
I don't want to make those mistakes again. If I could say to my younger self, take notes if they're talking. This is actually important. You're going to need this. Right. I'll write it down on a little piece of paper. Forget about it. I'll remember he's got 3 kids. I'm not going to remember. I'll remember that, the underlying mortgage is a high interest. I'm not going to remember. So if I could say something to my younger self, it would be, number one, read those books. Follow the fundamentals, stick to the fundamentals, and if they're talking, you're typing.
Yeah. And Ron, I think our last question, if you don't mind, could you read for us maybe your dedication in your book?
Sure. I'd love to do that. This book is dedicated to my mother and father with love and gratitude for encouraging and teaching me, for my brother Jay, who helped influence me and guide my life's path, for my sons Drew and Chase, for the love and joy they bring to my world, and really for all the fathers out there who want to protect and teach and encourage their children as my father did for me, as I do for mine. I think this skill set, there's 8 billion people on this planet, I think, as of now. If you want to deal with those, with some of those 8 billion people, please read this book. Please try to practice, the 9 interpersonal skills. I think it will enrich your business, any relationship you have, and in your life in general.
Thanks very much, Ron. I enjoyed this.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.